trying to get the whole spine from the sacrum up to the end of the neck straight. And then the hands coming out to the side. Just turn one hand over so we have a degree of asymmetry, and twisting. And slowly up again. Pulling and pushing. Gently pulling the two hands away from each other. Relax the shoulders down into it. And start the hands twisting a little bit against each other. And then just reverse it. So now pushing the two hands towards each other. And reversing again. So now pulling. We want this gentle tension to get into our bones and our core. And whenever there's contention, then the thymus will be stimulated. So there's a sense that your upper chest is trying to rear up through this. And now just reversing again, so pushing. So there should be a sense of this all the time between the two sides of your body. There's always a little bit of a gentle struggle going on, which charges you up, energizes you, gets you ready for action. Pulling. Keep the shoulders relaxing. Looks good. And pushing. And then just putting the stick down. And now let's just sit a little while, just a minute or so. Again, the shoulders relaxing, the thymus lifting. We don't want to purposely thrust the thymus up. We want to just put our mind there and free it of the tension that keeps it down. So the thymus, it's like male spirit, but it doesn't need to be aggressive. It tends to be aggressive because men have such tense shoulders that for their thymus to actually escape that tension, they really have to charge it up and become aggressive and violent often. But if the shoulders are relaxed and the mind is just bright and quiet, bright and empty, then the thymus should lift. It's really just a sense of curiosity and inquisitiveness. It's very natural amongst animals. So it's not you thrusting your thymus up. It's your lightness rising and cheering you up. So we have to be very careful that we don't force things. That beautiful Proust quote, I can't remember how it goes exactly, but he's just saying what we are working for are not new vistas, but new eyes. So something has to relax so that we can become more awake. and then everything is different. Now bringing the hands down, just a minute like this. Feel the middle fingers particularly directing the thymus upwards. Your middle fingers are with the upper heart, ascending. The lark ascending. And then just a minute more with the hands down here. So when we're like this, we just have to be really careful that it doesn't droop us forwards. So we still want this sense of the upper heart lifting. A riding horse moving side to side, pulling the ground, scooping at the ground to move yourself. My knee appears to move first. I want that to be associated with the release of this sacroiliac. Remember the way, when we did this last time and we got it in 2 stages. So pushing from the hand and then the shoulder blade releasing to get further extension. Now we're wanting that here, but we're wanting that to be the first thing. So it's the hip releasing that extends into the knee and the foot. Ward off, as we know in Tai Chi, is not simply the arm rounding like this, because that would just be too small and it has no energetic content. What it is, it's the shoulder blade releasing from the spine into this curve. And what that produces is a strong outside, but a very tender and soft inside. So a real difference between the protective aspect of it and the hugging aspect of it. So with the protective aspect, I can bang things away, I can keep things out, but the inside is just very loving and embracing and soft. So let's just try that. I want to separate from the back. So it's my shoulder blade comes away from my spine and just rolls into this ward off. It naturally comes around to the front. If it didn't, then it would just extend to the side like this, if it was a straight line. So I want this feeling of release. I release from the spine. Ooh. And the arm comes round into ward off. And to get that release in the spine, something has to happen. Something in you has to courageously let go to allow the shoulder blade to come away, and then for that to just extend down into the hand. So when you've got ward off, it's really soft here. There's no muscles getting tense. It's all from the spine. It's just stretched from your spine across your shoulder blade and down your arm. It's strong, but it's also incredibly soft in the middle. So I'm opening and just want to feel that release down from the spine, across the shoulder blade and down the arm. So the shoulder blade comes away and then it just rolls down the arm. And it feels big. It feels like it's bigger than your arms normally are, because of course it is, because it's including the shoulder. So it will tend to get top heavy. And this is why we have to remain sunk to root and stabilize this large heart, which is really what it is. This is the lower heart. This is the lower heart extending down the arm. And I have to make sure I feel it. It's not just a physical action. It's a real emotional shift has to happen. I'm taking a risk. I'm becoming vulnerable. I'm opening up, and that will cause a feeling, and it's not necessarily a pleasant feeling. You feel exposed. It gives a charge because it needs courage. Just have to feel that, ooh, something releases, and then I let it roll down the arm. It's always wanting to spring back into the spine, but I have to work to let it just roll out and down into the hand. And then just try and notice the waist turns. So to separate the shoulder from the back, I sort of turn this way a little bit. So I turn this way, like we're turning away from it. And then you turn back to get it to roll down into the hand. So I'm turning this way a little bit. Ooh, and then I roll back. So this is our turning, us pulling away from the shoulder blade. And then down into the arm. So 1. So this is just the 2 actions. Releasing the shoulder blade is the straightening aspect. And then bringing the hand into this roundness is the bending aspect. It's like I'm straightening the arm, but it only gets into this part. And then I bend the arm and then it gets down into the hand. So there's a ripple that's flowing from my spine across my shoulder blade and down my arm. Ooh. So I turn a little bit to my right here, and then I turn back to the front, and that will roll the arm up into the circle and get the energy to come down into the hand. The important thing for me is the feeling. I find it very odd, when I work with people, just how reluctant they are to even countenance a change in their feelings. So you see people doing this and they're just totally flat. They've got these impassive faces and they're obviously thinking about something totally unrelated. I want to let the exercise change me, make me more intense, more passionate, more capable of something real. Shoulder and down the arm into the hand, shoulder releasing down into the hand. And now we just want this exactly the same thing in the legs. This is where we'd like it to be. But of course, it's much more difficult, partly because they're supporting me. What we've been doing is straightening the leg and then bending the leg, straightening the leg, bending the leg. So let's just try this a little bit. So straighten, bend, straighten, bend. So this is what we do to make a turn. I straighten this leg until it's back leg, and then I bend it, brings me back to the front, straighten this leg. Now we'd like it to be more similar to what we were doing with the arms. So when I straighten the leg, So what we tend to do is just tighten this muscle, and it straightens, and then tighten this muscle, and the leg bends. Now what I want to do, instead of simply straightening the leg, I want it to expand by separating here at the sacroiliac. Same way I wanted my shoulder to come out like this. I have to do something. So way, I just turn, and I need to reach like a level of intensity and bravery so that this can almost dissociate. They can, and then the bending of the leg is the same as just bending the arm to bring the hand round. So there's something is coming out of my hip, and then the leg bends to pull me back. So it's much more like the prowling animal rather than just a simple mechanical action that's causing locomotion. So something's coming out and then it's pulling back. From the sacrum and down into the foot, from the sacrum. It's difficult because the foot is on the ground. So this point here, in the same way that I had to intensify to let the shoulder out, it's not a simple matter of playing chess and just moving these pieces. I have to do something real. And we want the same feeling here. So I have to get this to feel as though it's coming away from the sacrum. So it's like finding the most inefficient way of working possible. We're normally wanting to just work efficiently so that our mind can think about something else. But here we just want to make this as intense as possible. So, and then it rolls me back. Trying to feel it here. So in the same way with the arm, I'm feeling the release of the shoulder blade away from the spine. Here I'm feeling the release of the hip bone away from the sacrum. And then riding horse, just feel the Danshan. My Danshan is my gravitational center. The sense that every particle of my body is being sucked towards this region. Ming Men, Danshan. So it's like a black hole that's sucking everything towards it. And then I want to feel this point. This point is like the opposite. It's like a sun that's shining and a sense of expanding outwards. But only when it's quiet. So really it should just be awake and just ready for an honest response. And when this closes off and starts thinking to itself, then it becomes more like this. So we should cohere, we should hold together from this point And what's tended to happen is the ego has taken over. The ego is now our place of self, of identity, of oneness. But what that then means is that this becomes heavy, like this center, and starts to crush the heart. This should be incredibly light and bright and just opening and expanding. And then the thymus can lift through that. So you're like a yin yang symbol. So this is like the black spot, and this is like the white spot. And it's just you've got a circle enclosing them, and the heart is the same. So you've got the black spot, which is eros, the deep heart, so the real cleft in the chest, the cleavage. And then you've got thymus, which is the upper heart. And the thymus is related to this, and eros is related to the dantian. And now breathing, but again, trying not to breathe from the upper body. So if I'm breathing from my upper body, then this is happening. I've got this action going, which is okay. I mean, it's exercising the spine, but what I want is to use the legs. So I want to suck myself down. And that causes my head just to come forward a little bit. Otherwise, it would go back and I'd fall backwards, and the arms to close. And now I just straighten my legs a little bit, bending the legs, sucking my lower spine, so from my Ming Meng down into my legs towards my knees, and then just bringing it back up again. Bending, straighten. It's very difficult. Working from the legs, getting the activity to come from the legs rather than the upper body. It's really difficult. Pulling down. So as I pull down, I'm pulling my lower back down through the buttocks, through the hamstrings to the knees. Try and get it to start in the legs. My legs bend, pull me down, and then the hands come in as a consequence. And then my legs straighten and the arms eventually get going out. So it's the legs, I'm sucking down into the legs. Okay. And now let's try the tree, rooting down into the earth to suck energy up, and then reaching up into the sky to pull energy down. Reaching down my legs into the ground, and then I suck energy up, and then I reach down my arms, my branches, up into the sky and draw energy down. You want to feel that wriggle that has to happen to get the split from the one into the two. So when it's the one splits into two, you have to get one going first and then the other one, because it requires a waist turn. So here, and then there's a sense that the one, so when the two become one, they don't really, they just get really close together and then they separate again. So there never really is one. This is the insight that we need to come to through our own work, is that basically the ego is really like an illusion, and it really inhibits your ability to listen, and it also inhibits your ability to respond in a natural way. So So when you're possessed by ego, you're basically incapable of natural response. In other words, you're slow, which is why, for a martial artist, it's very important to be free of that. Otherwise, you just don't have the required speed. And now side to side, opening and closing. To feel as I open, my thymus becomes active. My upper heart is wanting to reach out. As I close down, what I've captured is being brought into the lower heart. Extending out from the thymus and then sucking in and bringing it down into the deep heart. It's like fishing. Sending out the lure on the end of the line and then reeling it in the hope that you'll get a bite. And just get it coming from the legs. This leg is really straightening, and then it bends, and then this leg is really straightening. If it doesn't come from the legs properly, if the legs aren't active enough, then you'll always be coming back to ego. This is the secret of Tai Chi, really. The spiritual aspect of Tai Chi is the legs. It's the activity and the strength in the legs, constantly sucking all of this activity out so that it can fill with the correct attention. Because whilst I'm thinking to myself, I'm completely unaware, basically unconscious. And straighten this leg. So it's the straightening of this leg that gets the arms to fly out, and then it's the bending of this leg that gets them to suck back towards each other. It's all coming from the legs. This is the ideal. And then just back. And now let's try turning just from the one leg. Let's try this leg as we normally do this one. So I'm going to do my left leg. So I straighten it like we've just been doing. I straighten the leg to make it a bat leg. So I've now got my hips to this corner. And then I bend the leg to bring myself back to the front. And then I straighten it again, but now as a front foot, which brings my hips around to this corner. And then bending, straightening, bending, straightening, bending, straightening. So I'm using the leg to push myself into this leg, but also to push this hip round so I get a turn. And then I bend that leg until I'm basically riding horse. And then I straighten it again, pushing myself into this leg, but also pushing this hip this way to get myself round here. All the action is in the left leg. The right leg is obviously doing a lot of work because it's supporting this. So this is important, this, because I want the feeling that the straightening of this leg is coming into this extending. This is easy to feel because the straightening of this leg is pushing this hip forward, so it's easy to feel that coming here. But here it's pushing the hip backwards, but I want my hand to come forwards. So I have to lean forwards a little bit and just really become quite fierce. So I straighten my back leg, and that pushes me into this leg, but also pushes this hip forward so that I'm facing front. And then I bend the back leg, which pulls me to the corner pretty much. And now I straighten my front leg, driving me completely into the back leg and pushing this hip back, bending the leg, straightening the back leg, bending the back leg, straightening the front leg, bending the front leg, straight, bend, straight. This is difficult here. Bend, straight, bend, straight, bend. This seemingly simple action of moving from your front foot into your back foot when in bow and arrow posture is actually 4 different things. And I just want them to be separate. I want to see with some clarity the activity, because each little bit has a different feeling. And so if I can get them all in, I go through a range of feeling as I do the thing. That's what's important. This is consciousness. This is awareness. It's not what's in the mind. It's what's in the heart. It's the feelings associated with what's there rather than factually what's there. So when we really straighten the back leg and we get this arm to straighten with the leg, along the leg, then basically we have single whip. With single whip, the hook is pulled back because it's aligning with the back leg. And then when I'm straightening the front leg, I'm really driving myself back, then I have lifting hands. So two adjacent postures in the form, both completely different, but both involving a straightening of the leg. And what I have to appreciate is that unless I can really straighten the leg, it's always holding a little bit of the weight, and I never get everything into the other leg. So this is more difficult to straighten the back leg. It never gets quite straight, and I'm not sure it needs to. For the front leg, we just really need to be able to just let it straighten here and let go here in the hip, so that this has to take everything. Okay. So down Qian. So I want my heaviness to be local to here, so that everything else can be light. So I don't want my heaviness here to bring me down completely. It's rooting me and anchoring me so that the rest of me can just become really light. And if I let go here, then I'd float. I'd come off the ground. I'd levitate. That's the feeling. Now let's try a bit of this. It's basically the figure of eight exercise. I'm just feeling the figure of eight inside each foot, as well as inside the hands and the arms. Going around the toes and then around the heel as the heel goes down. My toes are with my lightness, and my heel is with my heaviness. My foot can twist. The front of the foot can rotate one way, and the back of the foot, the heel, can rotate the other. And then just let it wind down.